Hello YouTube, it's William. Hope this sun's not too much of a glare, but it just feels so good. Fall day. Oh man, been a long time coming. Here it is, the third day of bow season, and I have yet to get in the woods. Dedication. What else can I say? But I am going to take some time. I can't go today because family things. But anyway, I tried to do this Whittle Talk. Welcome to another Whittle Talk. Tried to do this Whittle Talk a couple of days, or yesterday or day before yesterday. I was starting to run together. And while I was working in the shop, and it turned into almost a 30-minute video. So I thought maybe I would just sit here and whittle on a stick. This is a piece of that elm that I chopped off when I tested that big chopper. Pretty dense wood. But anyway, we were talking on a group, Facebook group, Dave Canterbury's group, the Pathfinder School, and he raised the issue of bartering skills, and I've touched on this a few times myself. If you go back through my Whittle Talks, you'll see it. I think I talked about it last year some, and maybe the year before a little bit, and I agree with Dave that it's always a good idea to have a skill set that you could barter with if there were, and I'm going to say if, because I believe that it's inevitable. At some point, we're going to come to a point like we did in the 30s, during the Great Depression. Because every so many years the economic system has to collapse and they have to create a new system. And I think we're at that point again. Now, along with that is every time the economy collapses, and this is a global thing, this is not just a U.S. thing. Same thing happened in the 20s. It was our late 20s, early 30s. It was not just an American thing, it was a global thing. It's always a global thing. Every time that occurs, inevitably it causes war. Now, some speculate the reason for that is that people are going for other resources to build back their economies. That could be it. But historically, that happens. That's what happens. So how does that affect you and I? I assume that none of us are multi-billionaires and have stocks and bonds and gold and all this other thing set aside. So how does that affect us? Well, we look at history and see how that affects us. In the 30s there was electricity, but not many people could afford it. So if you can't afford it, then you don't have electricity. I mean, let's just throw the terroristic thing aside. Let's throw aside the EMP possibility from the sun, an EMP blast from a rogue nation such as Korea, or even if we were attacked and they used an EMP blast to disable our electrical grid. All that aside, if the economy was to collapse, and they were to collapse it for a reset, a global reset, which they are speculating, they are talking about it, the IMF is talking about that, even the Fed has alluded to that. So it is thought about. And like I say, historically it is a fact that it will occur at some point. Now if that's next week, this week, next month, next year, the next 10 years, your guess is as good as mine. I have no idea. So, but I think we need to use that time to prepare. And in our preparations, we need to prepare like if we were having to exist or survive or live pre-industrial revolution. Okay, that means before electricity, that means before automobiles, that means before any type of equipment that requires gasoline or electricity. That means hand tools, that is horsepower, real horsepower, the ones with 4 legs, not the ones under the hood. Things like that. We need to become familiar with that and understand that and get proficient at that. Because at some point you're going to have to barter either your stored away items or a skill to obtain something that you don't have. There may be a time where your skill set is different than someone else's, and you need what that someone else's has, but he also needs what you have as a skill set. So that's a barter and exchange between you two. And we have that in different forums and different things on social media, such as trade sites, where we trade an item that we make, we craft, for something that another item that someone else has. And I hope that it doesn't come down to the Mad Max scenario where you're trading a bottle of water and 2 shotgun shells for a car or for your clothes or anything like that. But it very well could until they get the new system reset. So anyway, when you're talking about skill sets, I mean, think about, and if you're really not sure what pre-industrial revolution time frame was, look at the old Western movies. What did the townspeople have? Well, they had tailors, they had carpenters with hand tools, they had blacksmiths, farriers, which was probably the blacksmith. They had ranchers, gardens, farms, a lot of things that they had that made a town. So all of those skills will play a part. And I don't believe, personally, that a person alone is going to survive very long. There's no way that he can take care of security, procure food, and everything for himself, and because somebody's going to come and take it and maybe take his life. Because we have to think about security as well, because there will be lawlessness, I'm afraid, because once the economy does stop and reset, then the checks are going to stop. There is not going to be any government funding, and you've seen recently what happens when the government funds stop. There's riots, there's chaos, and it's the policemen and everything is going to be overwhelmed. So it's going to be up to you. And once the checks stop, then that means the police are not being paid. So the police are not going to come to work because they're going to be home protecting their families. So it's going to be complete lawlessness for a while. Lawlessness. So we have to be prepared to protect what we have. Now, with that said, we also have to help our neighbors. We have to also help those that are in need that we can. So I'm not saying hoard. I don't believe in hoarding. I believe that we have to have enough stored away to help others and take care of our families and ourselves. Make sure that, I mean, if power does go out, if you can't afford power, then that means power's out. It doesn't matter if power's coming to your neighbor or not, he can afford electricity, your power's out. So how do you store your food? How do you, all the pumps are, doesn't matter, you don't have water. So what are you going to drink? What are you going to bathe in? What are you going to cook with? How are you going to get drinking water? Is it filtration? Do you have a fountain close by that you can tote water in? Is there a lake or a stream nearby? How do you get there? I mean, you don't have an automobile, you can't afford gasoline if it's available. Because at some point the truck driver is going to quit because they're not getting paid. I mean, the entire system that we depend on is going to be shut down. It's going to be self-sufficient at the nth degree. So whatever you have and whatever you can make is pretty much what you're going to be stuck with. Now, another thing that was mentioned on the forum that I think that we need to be cautious of was many of them said, well, I'll live off the land. I'll hunt and I'll fish and I'll do all these other things and I'll be fine. Well, if you read the documents from the Great Depression, game did not last very long. There are stories of families having to, just being overwhelmed and overjoyous at finding an armadillo. Because once game is hunted, then they leave the country when whatever doesn't is dead. So I don't know that living off the land is going to be a viable solution. I think what we need to consider is having enough food stored for a year. That means that no matter when this occurs, we have enough food to last us until the next growing season, until that harvest, so that we can have food for the next year. And that's how our grandparents and our great-grandparents survived, is they stored food from the harvest for the following year. And I think that's what we're going to have to go back to. So I didn't want this to turn into a major thing, but I do think it's something that we need to really sit down, whittle on a stick, and think about this. From some of the comments on the forum, there was a lot of people who took it seriously, but there were a few little comments here and there that I don't think they took seriously, and I don't know if it was trolls or whatever it was, but I think it's something that we need to really consider and think about, sit and think about. If I lost power, if I couldn't afford power, if there was an EMP, play the what if game. How would I feed my family? How would I take care of my family for a year? If I could live a year until I could get a garden to grow and produce and get enough food stored away for the next year, then that's how I need to set up my system. Because the first 2 weeks that you're out in the woods hunting, the game is gone. If you go back through history, that's the reason there was long hunters. They had to go way away from civilization in order to find the game, because the game is not going to be around where you're at. And let's face it, folks, there's not much wilderness left. Even in Texas, which is a big state, there's not much true wilderness left. There may be some out west in, say, Montana and Idaho up in there, and a lot of the mountain territory, but I would say 90% of the U.S., there's not much true wilderness area left. So I don't think that living off the land is a viable solution for any length of time. I think within 2 weeks you're going to be hurting. So sit and whittle on a stick. Think about this. Play the scenario out in your mind. What do I need to live? I need water, food, shelter. How do I achieve those if I had no money? If I had no power? If I had no car? How do I achieve that and provide for myself and or my family? Think about those things. So, until the next one, you guys be safe. Get prepared, because I like I say, I think it's coming. It may not be today, tomorrow, next week, or next year. I don't know when it's coming, but it will be reset. It's a historical fact. The economy will come down, the world economy. It's not just a U.S. thing, it's a world thing. Just in the past 6 weeks, the world markets has lost $10 trillion. So maybe that's the foreshadowing of what's coming soon. I don't know. I just think that we need to take this time and use it wisely and prepare as much as we can and as best as we can, because you cannot depend on someone else. You cannot depend on FEMA. You can't depend on the government. You can't depend on someone else because they're going to be overwhelmed as well. There's no way that they can feed 300 million people. It's just not going to happen. They're going to feed those that's important to them. And let's face it, me, I'm not that important to them. And so I don't know if you are or not, but I think it's best that I fend for myself. And that's about all I got to say. So until the next one, you guys get in the backyard, whittle on a stick, and like I said, think about this and go through the different scenarios and start preparing. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. There's a peace of mind of when you have food stocks and things set aside, and I would consider not having it at your house. I would have it staged around somewhere to where you can get to it without a car. I think you really need to think about the security of it, how you're going to do it, the planning of it, practice the plan, make sure the plan's going to work. Because planning is one thing, practicing and actually implementing the plan is a different thing. So if you're relocating, plan on how that relocation is going to work. If you're taking bicycles, then take the bicycles exactly how you plan to do it. Try it out, see how well it works. So, with that said, I'm going to let you guys go. And until the next one, you guys be safe. And get out there and whittle on a stick. And if you do, take plenty of Band-Aids and lots of knives. We'll catch you again soon.